Greetings and welcome to Family Partnership of Central Florida's podcast. Today I have a very special guest, Betsey Bell, leader of Commission 127. But you're more than just a leader. You're a friend, you're a colleague, and you're a mission driver with me. And I am so grateful to have you join us. I've been longing for this connection via audio because we've worked together for quite some time now. It's been a few years, actually. Tell us about you and tell us about Commission 127.
So my husband and I, we opened our home to our now oldest daughter when we had three little ones under the age of 5, and she joined us from foster care at 15. And it was a yes that we said, I think we most of the time don't understand the impact of most of our yeses. That yes has now led to a beautiful and very messy family of 6 kids and 2 grandbabies. So our 2 oldest kiddos are spent time in foster care, and we quickly realized, and just walking alongside other families, the need for community and support. There's the stat that over 50% of families will quit after the first placement or the first year doing this really hard thing, but with the support and wraparound, that over 90% lasts 2 to 3 times longer. So we found this model. I'm all about let's not reinvent the wheel. And said Central Florida needs this. And then eventually we decided that we would bring it to Central Florida. So we did that back in 2018. And the heart is really finding a way for everyone to care. Because most people, we used to think, oh, everybody should foster adopt. But it does need to be something that you feel called to and that you fully have thought through. So now our big thing is not all are called to foster, but all are called to care. And now there really is a way with this model of wraparound and walking alongside people for everyone to care in a meaningful way without necessarily having to open your home to foster adopt.
You know, I remember the first time I met you and your husband, Rashad, it was apparent to me that you simply make people feel comfortable. And I was one of those people from Hello that knew that this journey together will be, basically predicated on transparency and understanding that, hey, it's an imperfect world. We take it as we see it, and we're called to this. I agree with you. What are some of the things that you may not have anticipated that you experienced shortly thereafter once you made that kind of commitment?
I think in launching the organization, we knew that it would help foster families and adoptive families feel supported and be able to continue loving kids from hard places. What we didn't anticipate, I think, was the impact it would have on the volunteers. That they then, who maybe had carried this like desire to care, to do something, but maybe they weren't in a season or they couldn't open their homes, that they were actually given a meaningful way to care. And so I think that's been a wonderful surprise of watching, and since we've been doing this, over 3,000 volunteers who've gone through some training and some equipping to be able to wrap around families, just the joy and what it means to them to be part of this bigger story without necessarily being on the front lines of it.
With that said, understanding what you believe the path was then, has it wavered and altered much since?
Yeah, I think for sure. We thought we really would be focused on, which we are, but equipping our local churches who have thousands of people who also want to be doing something meaningful, but we're all busy, right? So this isn't your calling to do this. How do you find time in your busy schedule to actually give back in a meaningful way? I mean, we could all volunteer once a year, do something. And so I think that's been really important in giving people ways to serve in ways that make a difference.
Yeah. I remember, years ago, it was about the same time, I think, when we started to get more involved as organizations. And then we acquired this larger grant and larger geographic coverage area. I remember talking to the First Lady of Florida, the governor's wife, and she asked me the very poignant question, Phil, do you work with the faith community? You are an example that I offered out. You, Commission 2027, and all those that are involved. There are many people involved in Commission 2027, whether they're under your purview or an extension of. And I was so proud to talk about how when we got together, it wasn't like I had to highlight or outline what the needs are. You were like, we kind of get what this is all about. We've kind of assessed needs. We found our place in response to that. And for me, as leading an organization in a system of care, partners like that are for life.
Mm.
I mean, you have to know how much that means to me, how much it means to this organization. What has that journey together with our organization been like for you? I'm sure we've had highs and lows and bumps and stuff like that, but can you give us some idea?
I mean, it's a real honor to be able to make that bridge for, we're partnered with over 70 local churches and to help them do this well. Because I think sometimes the church can get a bad rap, sometimes for good reason, with these great intentions of wanting to help, but not really understanding
Yeah.
what the need is, or what not to say, or that's not really how we say that, And so it's really an honor to be able to equip people with the tools and the language and the training so that they can do this well, so that it can be a good experience where people are committed and they're helping in meaningful ways beyond, let's say, the traditional, like, we're going to buy toys for Christmas time. Like, right, they're actually entering into the redemptive story of what's that look like for that kid to go through this hard place along with families. And I think one of the things that changed along the way was during COVID, we ended up, everything shut down, and families that maybe whatever support they did have before COVID went away. So here they are fostering or have adopted, and that support's now gone, and they don't even have school, so they're at home. So the need for support and community like skyrocketed exponentially, and so we ended up having a much more direct front-facing role of support for those families, especially during that time. And churches were closed, everything's closed. That direct support of retreats and being there to answer a call, connecting people to one another so that they can find support and answers from each other became kind of a second hand that we grew. And then really, as we've gone through it, just knowing the importance of supporting child welfare professionals, because they're, people who get into this because they want to make a difference and they want to help, and then they're put in this hard place where it feels impossible to really make a difference, and often doing things that they didn't think that they would have to be doing, alongside, and meeting people in some of the hardest places of their lives. It's messy, it's broken, it's hard. They carry heavy burdens, huge responsibilities, and they're amazing people that often get, a bad rap. I mean, I think in this space, often, the case manager dropped this ball. Well, they're carrying a lot of balls. Like, we need to support them, and how can we walk alongside? And same thing for foster parents. I think there's a bad rap there too. There's not enough great stories. There's amazing stories that are happening every single day. We get to hear them, but we would love to flood Central Florida with more of those good stories, because there's so much that's happening. And then kids themselves are placed in this broken system at no fault of their own, and they're those bad kids. I mean, like, there's just so much misinformation of not understanding the complexity of this system that isn't meant to be a parent. The systems don't parent, right? Parents parent, caregivers parent. And so what we get to do is really help walk alongside and empower people to help those people feel supported and stronger in that.
It's something, I got this big grin on my face because I look at you and I listen to you and I think we should write a book together on collaboration, right? Collaboration is not like, just getting together and saying we agree and we're going to go forward and, don't worry about any obstacles. We agree on one thing about how much we care, right? To making impact. And along this journey, and I want our listeners to think about finding that kind of partner in your journey, your mission, and what you hope to impact, and to be very, very transparent. I know for a fact that you and Rashad, when you met with our team, and we're at the table, and I remember that both parties were interested in understanding before being understood. I mean, the reciprocity of that kind of engagement was so healthy, so organic, that there was only one way we were going to go on this, and it was together. I realized how much I needed you, and because I oversee the organization that has the pipeline not only of children and licensed homes, but the workforce. And then over time, without guidance or direction, the partnership transcended from you and your organization to say, I think we understand what that organization's challenged by, and we're going to do something about it. And one of the things that you did about it that, quite frankly, makes me emotional even to this day is you've engaged our workforce, our frontline mission critical workforce who gets just the rap you talked about, works day in and day out, sacrificing from their own families to serve others in need. And you and your team have brought them together and to celebrate them. Can you talk about some of those events?
Yeah. I mean, we could all pretend we know what the needs are, but until we go to the people who have the needs, we're just making guesses. And so I think it's super critical as we develop programs or offerings or how do we is to talk to those people and have them at the table and understand. I mean, our team Commission 127 is only better when we listen and we can hear what's actually a need or what's actually not working well. And maybe we can help that, maybe we can't. One of the benefits that we have is we're a fairly small organization that's mostly funded by individuals, so we don't have a lot of, oh, we can't venture and try this. Like we have some flexibility, so we can think outside the box to say, that's an interesting thing. Well, maybe this would be helpful. And so just finding those unique ways, and also as we understand from your workforce perspective and your people, what some of those challenges are, we can then communicate that in a different way to the families who are maybe just feel like they're just hitting their head against a wall, and we can help bring some context and some understanding and maybe try this, and maybe that would help. So I think as we can help support all of the people who are trying, right? Nobody's the bad guy in this scenario, right? Everybody's trying their very best. The system makes it hard sometimes to have good communication. Like it's not set up in an ideal way to have everybody communicating well from all, but everybody's doing the best they can with their piece. And how do we get those pieces to work and fit better? I think is one of the things that we can, everybody can do that better. Right?
Yeah. My observations firsthand have been about the front line saying, they recognized us. It was a nice event. It was a nice luncheon, great fellowship. The kind words. I've been to your luncheons for them, and just even my presence, I feel warmed and welcome by folks that I don't know. I just align with because some might call it altruistic. I think it's deeper. I think it's really very, very intentional because we do recognize how long that journey. I mean, if you think about how you and I probably share a couple of things, probably many things, but one is life's journey is all about relationships, whether it's about us and our faith, muy importante, right? I mean, gee, that starts everything, all the balls rolling. And then how you love on our workforce, they get to pay that forward working with the children and the caregivers to include foster and bio in a way that kind of appreciation extends itself. Now, it's not always perfect because you have good days and bad days, but let me tell you something. I think in many days for a worker that you've just described so well, who's doing this and getting berated by demands, gets recognized by a player who doesn't have a direct dog in the race with regards to how they perform and what they're doing. The indirect is that, you want their kids and the people who care for our kids to get the resources and the momentum towards the road to permanency accomplished.
I mean, there's that stat. I might butcher it, but that I think Walden University did it. But that if a kid has one caseworker for their case, that they achieve permanency, meaning either they get reunified or they are adopted. I think it's 72% of the time. Mm-hmm. And if they have more than one caseworker, that permanency drops to, I think it's 17%. I mean, it's dramatic. Yeah. So and we all can say, of course, well, I mean, every time it changes, you lose
Yeah.
information, things fall through the cracks, there's extensions and all the things. So I think it just, for everyone's sake, but especially for the kids, right? So the kids, at the end of the day, we want them to be in a place that's is well supported so they can feel loved and accepted, and it's going to be hard no matter what, but how do we create this environment? And I think when we've got people who are working together, so much of their reality is impacted by all these grown-ups who are all around them, and if we can get the grown-ups all around them to be working at the highest level possible and as much together as possible, then they're going to benefit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the heart behind all of this, right? That's why we all do what we do.
Yeah. You talk about environment. I use an analogy oftentimes. It's sort of like a chemistry lab, and you can put a little something to move it in a positive direction, and you can also put something in there that can withhold it from its potential. And I think when you and I get together and our organizations collaborate with trust, transparency, and vulnerability, right? We're vulnerable with one another. I love that. I think if I was a young man, I'd think vulnerable. Where's the place for that? You know where the place for that is? It opens the gateway of the heart of people to express themselves as they are, for it to be very authentic in how we share and receive one another, and then how we're willing to collaborate. You could do no wrong, excuse me, and because I believe everything you do is for the greater good beyond yourself. You exemplify something that I've recognized in 127 is that they're all about, and even as I introduce you as a leader, what defines you as a leader is what you're giving, not what you're receiving. And I think it's evident in how you speak and how you lead and how you engage. And I know that because when folks from your organization we have meetings, community meetings and stuff like that, and they're present and they bring gifts, usually delicious edibles, always get to our heart, right through our stomach. And their presence is one of kindness and sincerity and appreciation. It's probably one of the reasons I definitely wanted to be here with you today to share with our audience what genuine, authentic collaboration should look like and what it should feel like. Largely because what it looks and feels like yields what it produces. And we have a lot more to produce together in the years to come. And I hope we leave that kind of legacy, and I believe we will. There are a lot of onlookers who are saying, why am I struggling with my partners on my journey? I don't know. Maybe you're not having this kind of conversation.
And I think there's always going to be, I mean, I think that's the hard in even loving kids from hard places and being in this work. But like we're doing a lot of opposites, right? Like, so when we're vulnerable and when we can hear what is our actual need, like we I mean, we serve everybody. It doesn't matter, regardless of their faith, and want everybody, because everybody who is in this space, we want them to be supported, regardless. And so when we pray for our families every week. We pray for case management every week. We pray for the leaders. We actually, as a team, sit and pray for specific requests. And so when we get requests from case management, let's say, I mean, there's hard, heavy things, and just the trust that's given, that they would trust us with that, and sometimes it's work, sometimes it's not, but and then our families would trust us with this hard, but then we get to celebrate too. Like I think of, and hopefully I don't spoil anything, but there's somebody on in case management that's having a baby shower, surprise baby shower, thinks it's a stat baby, and like that we get invited and we get to participate in that, we get to bring things that are part of that. And I think that's that it's just it's a trusting place, because we all are doing hard things, and so we've got to celebrate the small wins wherever we take them, wherever we can find them. How do we celebrate those small wins? But just to and especially the people who are in this and they don't get recognized a lot, how do we find those stories and recognize them for hard things that they're doing?
I think about our organization and the operative word family and partnerships, of course, but you are family to us, that. I see you that way. I feel you that way.
Functional family. I mean, there's so many things that you could take family. It's not always the best, but right there's
That's a good point.
I don't know, really, but we'll
But
be
you
a
are. You
dysfunctional
feel like family when I see
sometimes
you.
dysfunctional, I'm sure. I mean, we can always screw things up, right? But it's about coming back and saying, "Oh, that was my bad. Like, please forgive me. That did not work so well."
Stay tuned, listeners, for the sequel, How to Live by a Dysfunctional Family. But I want to thank you. I'm going to take a pause here, and we're going to get back to some more dialogue.
Join us at Family Partnership's annual golf tournament. This event is April 17th at Eagle Creek in Lake Nona. Enjoy raffles, win trophies, and show your support for the children and families we serve while enjoying a day of golf on a fantastic course. For more information, visit our website at fpocf.org. Now back to the program.
I'm so enjoying this conversation with you because it's like any conversation I've had with you. You know, it's rich in emotion, it's rich in insight, and it's rich in, you know, being able to share, you know, this mission, which is, you know, one of the things you said earlier, you know, this you alluded to is it's not for everybody. However, whether it's case management, whether it's fostering, whether it's leadership, that might not be for everybody. But you and I always think about, well, where might that place be for people? What are your thoughts about that, particularly when it comes to 127's mission?
Yeah, I mean, our organization was based on the Bible verse of James 1:27, to care for the orphans and the widows, and I mean, we don't call kids orphans anymore, but I mean, this is our modern day where we're at, and everybody has an opportunity to care. Some issues feel unsolvable, and you know, maybe homelessness or whatever. There's a number of issues where you can just be overwhelmed by the need. I feel like this, what sometimes is an invisible crisis of foster care, and people don't see it because it's very mysterious. They don't really understand it. They know it exists out there, but they don't know how to enter in or if that's for them. This is something that's really solvable within a local community. And we've got, I might be off of my numbers, but it's around 1,200 kids in care, and maybe 160 to 200 kids who are not in families. Those are big numbers because each one of them represent a real child with really hard things that they're walking through. But as a community, those are numbers that we can solve this. Like, we can make this better. And I that's part of our heart and our desire in 5 years is that we would walk alongside and have more than enough foster families so that every time a kid has to come into foster care, and hopefully we can come alongside and help to keep that door as closed, keep kids and families when safe as much as possible, and strengthen biological families. But when they do have to come into care, that there would be 6 families they'd have to figure out, gosh, which one is the best? And that would be the struggle, right? Like, how, and that's our heart. And so our desire is, that in 3 years we'd be in 200 local churches, because with every church now they're aware and now they're connected, and our heart is that, so if you get a community of people wrapped around, so you don't feel called to foster, but you could bring a meal once a month. Well, now we get 3 other people to bring a meal once a month, and now that family is getting a meal every week. And there's someone who's the team leader who's kind of organizing that. And then there's maybe 1 or 2 people who are either child mentors or can help give a date night once a month. So that family can last 2 to 3 times longer. And those kids can stay in one place, in one school, find safety, and maybe actually begin to heal from some of the hard. And that's something that's doable for every person. So even the busiest person can figure out a meal once a month. And so really just finding those entry points for people to go in. And if we can get people close enough, what we've seen is that out of that group of 6 to 10 people who are committed to walk alongside that family for a year, usually one of them will take their next step to, like, now that I've seen it up close and personal, I've gotten to know this foster family, and they're just regular people, and they work. Like like they're not these cape wearing people. They're just normal people who've made a commitment and feel called to this. And then they can kind of get it in their head and like, maybe I could do that. And these kids are just regular kids who've been through hard things. But it helps take down some of the things that are misnomers of what these people look like. And so then they go, oh, maybe I could be that people. And they can take that step and know that they'll get the support, so that they wouldn't enter into it alone, but that they would start fostering and they would get a care community wrapped around them. I mean, we have a family up in Seminole that their story is so beautiful, and they were serving and they were bringing meals. And then about a year and a half later, they said, well, we're going to foster. Well, then they started fostering, and then they got a care community around them. And then the way that they were able to love that biological mom and dad, and they just incorporated them into their family, and that care community wrapped around them. And they did all these things together. Anytime we would do an event, they would, we have a big thing out at Southern Hill Farm. They brought, bio mom and dad, come, be part of this. And that's just the story of what we want. We want this picture, and it's not always can't always be that way. But when it is, when there's enough support around people, where you have opportunity to breathe, where you don't feel like you don't have time to reach out to all these extra people or to build relationship, it gives opportunity margin to build relationship where it matters.
That's so beautifully stated. I think about how people look at the child welfare system, whether locally, Florida, nation. It seems that it's too convenient for people to criticize when there is opportunity, as you so articulated, that there is a place for people to get involved and really challenge yourself about whether what people are surmising, is it mythology and or is it real? The only way to know that is to be a part of it. I think about how you just spoke, the very words that you look at things certainly as the glass half full. Maybe your glass are glasses that are all overflowing at times, and because you really look optimistically about, let's not be that Monday morning quarterback. Let's rather be, the guy that's in the locker room giving the speech saying, we can do this. You said it in your own words, we can do this. I believe that. I've lived it. I want more to hear this. Let me just say this. If anybody asks again, Phil, how do you do what you do and what keeps you going? People like you. You light that fire in me tenfold. And it means the world to an organization like that people believe that what we're here to take on is not only necessary for today and where we're at, it's really about the impact of generations to come. And Commission 127, you guys are a champion, and you're a partner for life. And I couldn't thank you more from the bottom of my heart. And I speak for 450 people today now.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, we can all focus on, there's plenty of hard to focus on, right? But there are really opportunities, and we can really, and I appreciate the partnership and collaboration and ability to work together in a space that's not, that may not always have felt welcome. Like, and when we first started, there's a lot of assumptions made, and I mean, now we get to we're connected and walking alongside. 89% of all the foster families in this community are connected to us in some way, and and that looks different for every family. But our heart is, how do we find? We have an amazing community in Central Florida of people who really care. It's just we don't always know what to do with that. Yeah. And we need some help, and we need some structure, because we're busy and we've got, our lives are complicated. We can't just add. So having some structure for people to get engaged is important, and to get them close enough to see. Part of the exciting part of that is, so we're opening the Center for Care and Calling here shortly, where is a space of belonging where we will be able to care for caregivers, foster adoptive families, as well as case managers and leaders of family advocacy ministries from those churches. Just everybody a space to connect with one another, feel cared for. So we'll have a training space, and we'll have some special things in our care corridor. We have a relaxation room, and it's really nice massage chair that will be available, will be booked out for our people and for case managers and whoever just needs a moment. Because self-care is important, but most people, I mean, where do you find time? So you got to make time. And so we're trying to make it as easy as possible. We've got a room for just quiet space for prayer or meditation, just some quiet space. A listening room for where we'll have some people who will be able to hold space and listen. Because that's most of the things that people connected in these spaces. There's not a ton of answers or fixes. I mean, sometimes it's just a long game of doing the best you can for as long as you can and loving the best. So sometimes it's just hearing people and going, that's hard. Yes, makes sense that you feel crazy right now, but keep doing what you're doing. Keep loving, keep doing it, and that's means one more day that I can do this hard thing. And so just finding that support. And then we'll have a storytelling room to tell stories. There's so many amazing stories, and we need to flood this place with all the real and true and celebration moments, because there's enough hard, and we don't it's real. We don't pretend it's not there, but we need to also tell all of the amazing stories that are happening, because people are choosing and sacrificing and choosing to do the hard thing, which we always say, like, we can do hard things. So that's really important. And then we'll have one other thing that's really exciting, and it's an immersive experience, so that people can walk in the shoes of a child who's coming into foster care. Because again, we don't understand, and I don't understand myself, but we have enough people who've been able to speak into this opportunity of walking through what that's like. So it'll be available to be free tickets to be able to book your experience to walk through this. And so it'll be a hard, powerful experience, but then there's also hope in that, right? Like, so when we can see it for real and our hearts can break for it, but then go, but you can do something. You can do something. Like, we all have a next step that we could do. And so we're excited about what that can mean for Central Florida, mean for the corporate world who is curious and doesn't know where to play. Like, that we can allow people to walk through this, have them go through something hard, but to see where their part might be in this. Because we think that everybody has a part, for sure.
Throughout this discussion, I feel your faith exude from you in so many ways. What you say, what you envision, and how you're living in it. What is it, something about your faith that I think people need to hear to be inspired the way I'm inspired?
Well, I think, there's nothing special I didn't do anything to get to have the family I had, or to have parents that cared for me, or, and our kiddos who've been through hard things, they didn't either. And so we as people and created by a loving God, this is a hard space because it doesn't feel loving at times, right? Like in our own lives, we have hard things that we walk through. And so how do we come alongside and declare truth when it's so easy to believe the lies that I'm worthless, that I'm a failure, and rejection, all the things that we have. And so our faith is what keeps that hope that, yes, this is a broken world with some evil people who do horrible things to kids who don't deserve any of that. But how do we restore and redeem that story? Because they are valuable and they are loved. And so just my faith is what pushes me to want every child to know that they are valued and loved. And how do you do that? Well, you do that in a family that's well supported and who wants to love that child, right? And how do we restore hope back in the biological family that they could do this too? And so much is generational. And so how do you break that generational pattern? And we believe that it's God's love in that. And how do we really trust in those hard spaces where we can't? It feels very dark and very hard, and that's okay. Like, I think the Bible is full of hard complaint, lament of like, this sucks, this is hard, I don't want to do this. but we can trust that the character of God that is good and that he will bring good out of that. And so that's what really pushes us to do this hard work. I mean, none of us, there's no picture in the Bible of like easy.
Yeah.
It's all hard stories.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
it's not, if you really look at them, there's not a lot of like, this was easy. It's all really hard, but it's okay. And we can do hard. And if it means that our heart gets broken because maybe we foster and we connect and we give all of ourselves to that child, that's what that child deserves. And we can, as grown-ups and as people of faith, we can take that grief. That should be an okay swap, that it will crush me when that child leaves.
Yeah.
For good or bad. I mean, it's just hard. You just get connected and attached, which is what that child deserves, even if it's just for that time. But we should be able to say, that's okay. That child needs that. And I can do it. You know?
That's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
You know what's hard for me right now that we'd have to wrap this discussion up. That's hard. I mean, I can talk to you indefinitely. And I want to thank you on behalf of Family Partnerships for being here today. Thank you for the relationship we share, you and I, our organizations, and this blessed mission. Don't you feel privileged
Yeah.
to be serving?
I mean, it really is. I was just telling someone today before I got here that, working in this space, it really weeds out all the jerks. Like the people who are in this, like, they're not doing it for themselves, right? Like you really get to work with some of the most amazing people when you work in these spaces. So it is an honor and a privilege.
Well, get to know more about Commission 127, Family Partnerships of Central Florida. See us on the internet and know we are here together in the spirit of partnership to changing forever the generations of lives to come. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.